What if I told you that Alexander the Great did not die? That beneath the ashes of empire and the dust of centuries, his soul still marches forward, not through history books, but through the very structure of myth, mind, and metaphysical memory. In the veiled corridors of ancient lore, some say he was more than a conqueror. They whisper that he was a chosen vessel, not merely of empire, but of destiny, not merely of war, but of wisdom. A flame ignited by the gods, guided by omens, and shielded by fate. His name resounds not just in marble inscriptions and battlefield songs, but in mystical scrolls hidden in desert caves and sacred libraries long forgotten. Who was Alexander, truly? Was he the demigod forged from the divine seed of Zeus, as the oracle of Siwa once proclaimed? Was he the last pharaoh to hold the sacred power of Egypt in his veins? Or was he something even more enigmatic? A bridge between the temporal and the eternal, the physical and the divine. This is not just the story of a king. This is the unraveling of a legend cloaked in symbolism, wrapped in spiritual undertones, and carried through time like a living myth. We will journey beyond the military conquests and blood-soaked lands. We will dive into the esoteric implications of his dreams, the mystical meanings behind his tutelage under Aristotle, and the coded messages in his quest to reach the edges of the known world. In this sacred unveiling, you will discover Alexander as you've never known him, not as a figure of mere history, but as a symbolic archetype of inner conquest. His battles mirror the wars within the human soul. His ambition echoes the divine urge to transcend the boundaries of mortal limitation. In the chapters that follow, we will trace the alchemical transformation of a man into a myth. We will draw from forgotten texts, occult interpretations, and metaphysical philosophies that reveal the deeper truth buried beneath the surface of his tale. And most importantly, we will learn how his spiritual code, hidden beneath armor and crown, still offers practical keys to awaken the dormant conqueror within us all. Are you ready to walk beside a god king through the labyrinth of time? Are you ready to meet the man behind the myth, and the legend behind the man? Then follow, and let the veils of illusion fall. Long before he ever wielded a sword or set foot on foreign soil, Alexander was forged in the crucible of myth. His birth was not merely a biological event, it was a cosmic alignment. Olympias, his mother, claimed to have been impregnated not by Philip of Macedon, but by a thunderbolt from Zeus himself, wrapped in serpentine visions and divine omens. This was not a tale of ego. It was a rite of divine initiation, cloaked in symbolic language only the mystics could understand. To truly know Alexander, we must first step away from the linear paths of modern history and walk the spiral staircase of ancient philosophy. His world was not ours. It was filled with oracles, gods whispering in dreams, and the stars themselves believed to dictate human fate. He lived in an age where the boundary between man and deity was porous, where destiny was not earned but revealed. It is no accident that Alexander's tutor was Aristotle, the philosopher who balanced the rational with the mystical, the scientific with the sacred. Under Aristotle, Alexander did not merely learn logic and ethics, he drank from the well of sacred geometry, metaphysics, and the esoteric wisdom of the ancient schools. He studied the soul of the world, the anima mundi, and was taught that every kingdom, like every man, had a higher self waiting to be realized. In this light, Alexander's campaigns were not just geopolitical strategies. They were an outward reflection of an inward path, a Gnostic journey through the chakras of civilization. He moved from Macedonia the root, through Persia the fire, into Egypt the heart, and toward India the crown, tracing a divine arc across the body of Gaia herself. Each conquest mirrored an inner initiation. Each city was not just a prize, it was a symbol, a station in his quest for sacred kingship. Ancient Persian mystics believed that the true king was not chosen by bloodline but by far, a divine glory, a kind of cosmic light that shone from within the rightful ruler. Alexander, though foreign to Persia, was seen by many Zoroastrians as bearing this far. It was said to glow from him in battle, to bend fortune in his favor, to silence rebellion with the weight of celestial authority. Even his visit to the oracle of Amen at Siwa, a perilous journey through the desert, was not a political stunt. It was a pilgrimage. He sought not validation from the world, but revelation from the divine. And the oracle did not disappoint. He emerged from that temple a changed man, not simply a ruler of men, but a son of the gods, reborn in golden fire. From the Hindu mystics of the Indus to the Egyptian priests of Memphis, many saw in Alexander a figure from prophecy, a reincarnation of the world binder, the sacred warrior who would unite heaven and earth. His march eastward was a return to the source, a reweaving of the sacred threads of forgotten empires, and perhaps, just perhaps, a fulfillment of an ancient cosmic design. But there is more. The esoteric traditions of the Middle Ages, particularly within the Hermetic and Sufi circles, revered Alexander not as a mere king, but as the dual Karnain, the two-horned one mentioned in the Quran. This figure, believed by many to be Alexander, was said to have traveled to the ends of the earth to build a wall against the chaos of Gog and Magog, a symbolic gesture of sealing away the darkness within the soul, guarding the sacred from the profane. Thus, Alexander stands at the crossroads of myth and memory, fact and symbol. He is not just in our textbooks, he is in our dreams, in our rituals, in our archetypes. He is the eternal seeker, the spiritual warrior, the divine child who never stopped walking toward the horizon. And now, having peeled away the outer shell of history, we are ready to begin the deeper unveiling, to explore the core truths hidden within his journey. To understand Alexander not just as a historical titan but as a symbol of the soul's ascent, we must shift our gaze inward. The blood-stained marches, the sieges, the relentless expansion, all these reflect something deeper. They mirror the journey of the inner seeker, the mystic warrior who battles not for lands but for the throne of consciousness. In the great esoteric traditions, from the Hermetic to the Vedantic, there exists a recurring motif. The sacred king must conquer the outer world only to realize the true battle lies within. Alexander's campaigns across continents were the material echoes of this spiritual conquest. Each city he seized, each king he defeated, was a mask of his own shadow, each a dragon to be slain on the road to self-mastery. His life unfolds like a grand alchemical operation. In alchemy, the first stage is nigredo, the blackening, the chaos, the burning away of illusion. For Alexander, this was his youth, the tension with his father Philip, the rage, the restlessness. His ambition burned like molten lead, wild and formless. He was a soul not yet tempered, a sword not yet folded in flame. Then came albedo, the whitening, purification. Under Aristotle's guidance, Alexander's mind was sharpened. He was introduced to the sacred sciences, to Plato's ideal forms, to ethics that touched the divine. He began to see that to rule others, he must first rule himself. This stage did not silence his fire, it focused it, distilled it into something luminous. Next is Citronides, the yellowing, the dawning of spiritual insight. This phase parallels his eastern conquests. In Egypt, he was crowned as pharaoh, and the divine king archetype fully awakened in him. He walked with priests who read the stars, entered temples older than his lineage, and stood where gods once tread. This was not merely about power, it was illumination. His self-image transformed. No longer just a general, he became a vessel of divine light. Finally, rubedo, the reddening, the completion of the great work. Here lies the mystery. Some say it never truly came for Alexander, that he died before the final transmutation. But perhaps the rubedo is not an event, but a legacy. Perhaps the great work was never his alone to complete, but one he passed on to us through symbol and story, for each soul to carry forward. Consider this. Why did Alexander weep when there were no more worlds to conquer? Was it vanity? Or was it a moment of sacred despair? A realization that no external victory could grant him the wholeness he sought? This is the hidden lesson. For all his outward triumphs, the true path Alexander reveals is an inward one. The unification of the outer empire mirrors the integration of the fragmented self. The walls he breached and cities he built reflect the fortresses and temples within the psyche. In mystical language, he becomes the embodiment of the solar hero, the one who journeys eastward, toward enlightenment, chasing the sun across the known world. The path of Alexander is the path of solar will, radiant, relentless, consuming illusion in the blaze of divine purpose. And yet, like the sun itself, his light cast long shadows. His conquests brought both order and devastation. The lesson is subtle but profound. Spiritual power, if unbalanced, becomes tyranny. The flame that illuminates can also burn. So we are left with a paradox. Alexander, the bridge between divinity and destruction. He was not perfect, but he was a mirror, one in which we see both our highest potential and our deepest dangers. In the next stage of our journey, we will dive deeper into this paradox. We will explore the mystical contradictions and sacred enigmas that shroud his legacy. And we will examine the myths that grew after his death, myths that reveal not who he was, but what he meant. After Alexander's death, the world did not simply mourn a fallen king. It fractured under the weight of a legend. His body, unnaturally preserved, was entombed in a golden sarcophagus and paraded like the relic of a saint. The great cities of his empire became altars, his generals squabbled like priests over a divine inheritance, and the myth of Alexander began to transcend the man himself. But within that myth lies a paradox, and within the paradox, a key to understanding something far greater. Let us begin with a mystery that still haunts scholars and mystics alike. Why was his body never truly lost? Legends speak of his tomb in Alexandria, a sanctuary of divine energy, said to emit a light that could silence storms. Others say the tomb was hidden by secret cults, or that it was moved to protect it from the profane. But in esoteric teachings, this disappearance holds symbolic weight. The concealed body of Alexander represents the hidden self, the divine essence buried beneath layers of ego, identity, and illusion. In Gnostic symbolism, the true self is the eon, the divine spark, imprisoned in the material world. Alexander becomes this eon, His conquests, his dreams, his insatiable hunger for the infinite were not flaws, but echoes of a soul trying to remember its celestial origin. And like all true seekers, his journey did not end in victory. It ended in mystery. Even the myths that evolved around him took on metaphysical dimensions. In Persian, Arabic, and Sufi traditions, Alexander became Iskander, a figure who traverses worlds. In the Quran, he is Dhul Qarnayn, the two-horned one, a symbol of spiritual polarity, light and shadow, above and below, east and west. He journeys to the farthest ends of the earth, where he seals away the forces of chaos. This is not a literal wall. It is the wall built by the inner alchemist, the guardian between the lower self and the higher spirit. In medieval Hermetic texts, Alexander is described not as a warrior, but as a philosopher-king, bearer of secret knowledge passed down from Egypt, Babylon, and Atlantis. His supposed descent into the well of immortality, told in the Syriac Alexander romance, echoes the shamanic journey into the underworld, a death and rebirth that strips away the ego to reveal the eternal core. But these myths also carry warnings. There is an occult truth that even divine fire, when unchecked, consumes itself. The very traits that made Alexander great, his ambition, his belief in his own divinity, his thirst for glory, were the same forces that led to his undoing. He left behind an empire but no heir. His generals became rivals. His dream of unity fractured into wars, bloodlines, and lost civilizations. From a mystical lens, this downfall is not a failure. It is initiation. The myth teaches us that the journey toward godhood must pass through dissolution, through the fire of unmaking, before rebirth is possible. Alexander becomes a cautionary oracle. Power without balance leads to spiritual fragmentation. And yet, despite all contradictions, his myth endures, because it is ours. Every human being carries within them the essence of Alexander. We all march eastward toward our own promised lands. We all face battles, internal and external. We all seek to conquer our limitations, only to find that the real enemy is within. Like Alexander, we chase visions, consult oracles, build empires of ambition, and stand alone at the summit, wondering what lies beyond. The truth is, Alexander never wanted to rule the world, he wanted to transcend it. His story is not about domination. It is about ascension. And ascension demands sacrifice, solitude, and the courage to confront the unknown. In the next chapter of our journey, we will turn inward. We will take the keys offered by Alexander's myth and translate them into practical techniques, methods to harness the archetype of the conqueror within, not to rule others, but to master the self. If Alexander's life is a mirror for the journey of the soul, then his story offers not only metaphor, but method. The true empire he invites us to build is not upon earth, but within the self. His sword becomes the will, his horse Bucephalus becomes the disciplined mind, and his unyielding march eastward becomes the sacred pilgrimage toward enlightenment. The first and most essential practice drawn from his legacy is the discipline of vision. From youth, Alexander cultivated an image of himself not as he was, but as he could become. He spoke to his soul in the language of greatness. This is more than positive thinking. It is what ancient mystics called eidetic creation, the art of shaping your reality through the projection of a higher self-image. To apply this, each morning, close your eyes and envision your ideal self not as a dream, but as a presence already within you, waiting to be embodied. Feel it, speak from it, act through it. Second, embrace the practice of sacred struggle. Alexander's conquests were not born of ease. They were forged in storms, starvation, betrayal. In spiritual terms, these are initiations. Every hardship is a gate, every fear, a guardian. The Stoics, whom Alexander's contemporaries respected, taught that obstacles are not barriers but tools. Train your mind to welcome difficulty as a call to expand. Journaling, cold exposure, fasting, or focused silence are ways to simulate this initiation, teaching the nervous system to stay centered amid pressure. Third, cultivate the solar principle, what ancient texts called heliocentricity of the soul. Alexander followed the sun, not only geographically, but symbolically. The sun represents higher consciousness, unwavering purpose, and radiant clarity. Align your life with this light. Begin your day at sunrise when possible. Bathe in sunlight, speak with purpose, act without hiding. Like the sun, shine, not for approval, but because it is your nature. Another powerful technique is pilgrimage, not necessarily physical, but ritualistic. Alexander visited sacred sites to receive divine alignment. You can do the same in your space. Create a small shrine or sacred area. Light a candle. Place a stone or symbol of your journey. Visit it daily in reverence. Let this be your siwa, your oracle, where your inner wisdom speaks when the outer world is silent. Then comes the practice of legacy. Alexander's greatest sorrow was that his dream might die with him. But your dream, like his, can outlive flesh. Write, speak, teach, create, not to gain fame, but to extend your soul's intention beyond your lifetime. Whether through words, art, or acts of service, give your dream form. This is how spiritual kingship is passed forward. But beware the shadow. Alexander's myth warns us that unchecked desire, even divine, can devour. Practice humility rituals. Before bed, bow your head and thank life for what it has taught you that day. Speak aloud your flaws and errors. This grounds you, reminding the ego that it serves the spirit, not the other way around. Finally, adopt the ritual of sacred remembrance, anamnesis, as Plato called it. Once a week, retreat into stillness. Reflect not on your tasks, but your essence. Ask, who am I beyond all titles, roles, and fears? Let this question strip away your false crowns until the true self, the eternal conqueror, emerges. Through these practices, you do not merely study Alexander. You become him, not in conquest, but in consciousness. You awaken the archetype of the God King within, the one who rides toward the infinite, not to dominate, but to unite heaven and earth through the heart. As we come to the close of this exploration into the life and myth of Alexander the Great, we realize that his journey was not merely one of conquest, it was a spiritual odyssey that transcends time and space. His path reveals to us the eternal battle that rages within every soul, the quest for self-mastery, for divine understanding, and for the courage to face the shadows of our own psyche. Through his story, we are reminded that true power is not wielded over others, but over the self. The most profound empire we can build is within us. Alexander's legend, layered with mystery and contradiction, speaks to the eternal truth that we are all meant to be conquerors, not of lands, but of our limitations. We are all called to become rulers of our inner world, to transcend the mundane and step into the divine light that resides within. His life serves as both inspiration and caution, urging us to rise above the ego, embrace the divine purpose, and walk the alchemical path of transformation. As you reflect on the profound lessons hidden within the myth of Alexander, ask yourself, what is the empire I am destined to build within my own being? What are the battles I must fight to conquer myself and awaken the divine light that lies dormant within? We invite you to take these teachings, apply them in your own life, and embark on your own path of spiritual conquest. The journey to self-realization is not a solitary one. It is one that we walk together, as seekers of truth, light, and inner mastery. If you found this video enlightening and inspiring, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for joining us on this mystical journey into the life and legend of Alexander the Great. May his story continue to guide you on your own path of spiritual ascension. Until next time, walk with the light of the Conqueror within. Thank you for watching.